Best of the Future Assistant.
Well, as you all know, I'm always looking out for these very powerful partnerships when it comes to the work of an assistant together with her executive. And in this case, I was lucky enough to have a wonderful chat with Agnes and Matthew, both working for Freudenberg Sealing Technologies. Matthew is the president of sales and marketing for the automotive area, and Agnes is his EA. She's based in Germany, he's based in the US, and how they work together, how important it is to have a partnership of trust, but also having an understanding of new work and finding always good ways of innovative working and growing together. This has been the majority of the talk what we had, and it was very fascinating to see them work together in such a wonderful way, because as they don't see each other every single day, it is still working just fine. And I know you're going to love this episode, because especially these episodes are always very high in demand, because we love to hear the best practices from executives and their assistants. So welcome, Matthew and Agnes. Welcome, everybody, to the podcast, The Future Assistant, a podcast full of inspiration, encouragement, and empowerment for administrative professionals. Tune in, level up, and get motivated by the stories you are about to hear. Here we are again with another episode of the Future Assistant podcast. And you know me already out there. I specifically love when I have two guests in actually part of my episode here. And that's the case here tonight, especially since there's a power duo waiting for me here. We have Agnes and Matt over. Good to have you here with us. Hi.
Hi, Dana. Thank you for having us.
Hi. Great to be here.
It's a pleasure of hosting you. Where are you actually currently joining us from? Why don't we start with you, Agnes?
I am dialing in from the area of Weinheim near Mannheim. That's close to Heidelberg as well. That's probably the area you might know better. Yeah. So I'm located in Weinheim.
Nice area. What about you, Matt? Different time zone, right?
Different time zone, yeah. I'm calling in from the US. I currently live in Michigan, and I'm at our headquarters just outside of Metro Detroit.
Perfect. It's been ages since I've been to Detroit. I remember years ago, I was a frequent flyer on Northwest Airlines. Mm-hmm. They were actually stationed there, right, in Detroit. Yep. And so I've always been on NWA for quite a while. But they're I think, now part of Delta, right?
That's right. We still have a hub right in Detroit. So it actually makes it very, very nice to be able to travel out of Detroit. We have direct flights, or at least we had direct flights pretty much anywhere we wanted to go. And, with the pandemic, it's a bit tougher nowadays.
It is true indeed. So Agnes, why don't you describe your executive, Matt, to us? It would be interesting to find out how you describe him.
So I think I start with the basics, things like, Matt is married. He's a father of three. Mm-hmm. He is an American born in the US. He lives in the US as well, although he already lived 2 times in Germany, both times 3 years in a row. So I think after that experience, I would say he's kind of a bit of German as well in his mind.
Sure.
We're going to find this out in a minute.
Exactly. So besides that, as a fun fact, probably he loves doing PowerPoint slides, right? This is his passion, but he's a full engineer and technology guy. So this is why he's there in the position he is today. So, but if it would not be the position he's holding at the moment, I think he would run a PowerPoint company or so, running slides every day, right? So things like that. So yeah. So besides that, Matt is a person he fully trusts on you and your work, and this is what makes it really nice to work with him. And he challenged us a lot as well. But he's always asking the right questions straight to the point. I must say he's a good listener. Mm-hmm. He appreciates a lot what we are doing and the team is doing. That's also, and he got the attention to detail. So things like, I mean, that Matt, you sent me flowers for the administrative professionals day.
Wow.
These are things I really, I really appreciate a lot. So yeah, and then like coming to more the private area, I would say we became really close, good friends after a couple of years working together. We shared the same humor. We also shared the passion about food and wine. So yeah,
For sure.
Lots of great information already coming from you, Agnes. And I wow, it's incredible to hear how you describe your executive from a professional and a private perspective. So I have a lot of questions already. I hear PowerPoint here, Matt.
Absolutely.
A lot of people actually moving over to Sway. Have you tried it out, Microsoft Sway?
I have tried Sway. We work in a very technical business, and while the time that I use Sway, I see like for the graphics and the way that it presents information is really nice, but still within our company, PowerPoint is absolutely it's the base tool that we have. And yeah, and I mean, I've gotten to a point where I really know how to use it. I really enjoy using it. And as we said, that's the key point.
Absolutely. I love it too. But I keep hearing people that are actually ready to move over to Sway or Prezi or try to find out a few new options, how to present their content. Another question before you're going to introduce Agnes to us. German culture. We've heard about food lover. Would you say that the German cuisine is something that attracted you, or would you say, oh no, I'd rather go for the Italian side?
I mean, it certainly depends. I was just in Germany, and we had Kerva in Weinheim, and the meat sandwich or a brat with a bun. I mean, this is really outstanding. Certainly, I think we understand that German cuisine is maybe not the top cuisine in the world, whether it's French or Italian. It's certainly something that they really have in those countries. But I think it is it's a very comfortable place to go and eat and find food. And certainly, I mean, with the beer and more the wine, it is more and more becoming a food place.
Absolutely. And since actually we just opened up Oktoberfest in Munich, I don't know if you've heard it. Since 2 years, finally, they opened the gate and everyone is just so happy to be out there again and for sure enjoying food and drinking a good beer and everything. So yeah, Munich is crazy at the moment, I would say.
I can imagine.
So what would you say about Agnes, Matt? How would you describe her?
Yeah, it was great to hear how Agnes described me, and I think maybe I went in a little bit of a different direction as I kind of wrote down what I kind of thought with Agnes, and I wrote down the number one thing is she's a networking superhero. I know I hear it on your podcast, and I use the same thing in my own description of people. This superpower. What is her superpower? And it really is networking, and she connects with people like really just by default. And I think maybe you even have that same experience having met her personally.
Right.
And ultimately what I see is that it really comes from this place of really truly caring about people. And I think even just in the way that she described me, like she's able to pick out those different bits and pieces. And maybe that's where I, as an engineer, am maybe not so good at those things. One of the other things that I wrote down, and I think it's funny because it's maybe the two different sides of this coin is we always talk about she loves the status quo. And I wrote down that she's, oh gosh. And she says this all the time, but she's amazing at accepting and adapting to change. She really is. And she's really open to try new things. It's maybe the anticipation of the new things that she doesn't love so much, but once you really get into it, she's really leading and driving so many of the things. And I think we'll talk about the future assistant or the network that she's created where this has really changed within our organization, and she's driving it.
Indeed. And it needs courage also, Agnes, to do these projects. And as Matt said, we're going to hear more about this later on because, of course, we're curious to find out where you're currently standing with the network, right? Yeah.
And maybe two more points. One is she is really a great teammate. And when I think about our work together, she's on the one side she's my taskmaster and making sure that every single day the things that need to be done and the tasks that we've worked together to make sure that are on our list. She's making sure that I'm getting those done. But on the other side, like I always say, she's my human side. I think maybe one of the funny stories when her and I started working together was like her number one job is to make me human. And because so much of what we do in work and being in this technical field that we're in, is really around the technical things and the processes and whatnot. And as an engineer, I have a tendency to move more and more towards those sides, and her, caring about people, it really has worked. That the two of us, we make even better as teammates when she's able to help me do those things. And yeah, it's really good.
So a true people manager, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. And I definitely agree to that, how I met her and how I see her passion for this profession. Yeah.
For sure.
Absolutely. So coming back to you, Agnes, of course, we want to hear a little bit about your professional background. So how's that story, and why actually did you become an assistant?
Yeah, let's start probably from the beginning. I was born and grown up in Berlin, and it was during the Berlin Wall even. So when I was out of school, I thought like I had really the feeling that I need to go out, meet people, not studying something. So I started an apprenticeship in a hotel industry. So I was really like very classical, working in a hotel at a reception. So in that time, I must really say, I learned so much. I mean, this is the best foundation you can have, which comes like you learn so many skills you need for the assistant's profession, let's say. And during the reception time, you have to challenge things. You have to deal with many things. You have to really multitask all the time. You meet so many different nationalities. They all have their different needs. You have to interact super quick. So this is like, things like I really enjoyed to learn. And then I moved over to a sales position, but still keeping my passion in the hotel industry. So I traveled a lot. I was working 7 years in outside sales. So within that time, I was like organizing fairs, I was organizing bigger meetings, but also learned like what is important on a business trip, what's the international airports are, what's this point of being a frequent flyer, right? Things like basic stuff, but what's the easiest way to go there? But also building up a network, which helps me today so much. Like I know all over the world, like so many hotels and people. So this is like, it is really a great asset.
It helps you me totally in your role right now, right?
Yeah,
sending Matt all over the place for business meetings, right?
Yeah. So that helps me a lot today. And then I felt like I needed a change. That always, or sometimes it happens like after these 7 years, right? I don't know if you also realize that in your private life, but that 7 years period is something that is like a constant thing in my life. And then I moved actually down to the south of Germany because of private reasons, because of my partner. So, and then I was actually working in the financial industry, and I started working with investors on investor relations topics. I was doing roadshows with bigger companies. I was doing investor conferences and stuff like that. And then I got the pleasure to get a daughter. Actually, I went on parental leave. She's turning 6 in about 3 weeks. And then I was on parental leave. Afterwards, I decided not to go back to Frankfurt because it's like quite a ride every day. And I was searching for a job closer to my home. And then I came to the Freudenberg world. And there I was really lucky to get that position. I was reading through it. I thought, okay, this is sales. It is still sales. I want to be in sales. I'm a salesperson, right? And so I was like, hiring, or I was getting this job actually. And I was really lucky. That was back in 2018. Yeah. And I mean, why did I want to be an assistant? I mean, I love being an assistant, right? This is always what I say, Matt, when he is asking me, like, can you think about something different? I keep on saying, no, I am perfect where I am. I want to be in that role. And this is like a perfect combination from my background. I can, serve people. Is it like a guest or a team? It doesn't matter. I can help people. I can like create a foundation of admin stuff, which helps like everyone on their daily tasks, so they can fully concentrate and focus what they really want to do and run business at the moment, right, or at the end. So it really, and then together with all the skills I learned in the past, it is like the perfect combination for me, I must really say.
It's so funny that you say that, actually, because yesterday in Vienna, my training, there was an assistant working for the sales director, and the sales director came to her in the one-on-one feedback meeting they had, and he said, aren't you ready for the next role? And I'm happy to give you a role in my sales department. And she said, no, I am full of passion for this assistant role. And of course, it was a wonderful statement from him, because he actually saw that role in her and he offered that role. And she said, no, I'm happy what I do, happy to support you and the team. I'm happy to dive into the sales topics, obviously, and to become a strategic business partner. But I stay in this role because it's so full of variety. So, and I hear this also coming from you, that you're so passionate about the role, that you're creating the internal assistant network, and of course supporting Matt in his various projects, right?
Yeah. Sometimes I must really say it is crazy what we deal with every day. I mean, we have so many different topics on our desk, but it's also like, it starts with, I don't know, even, being kind of an HR role during the crisis, when the crisis started, right? I was handling like short work topics, and then, but also like then back to, manager support, but also like business trips. I have sometimes so many different things on my desk. It is a challenge, but it is what it fulfills me, right? This is what I love.
Wearing all these various hats, absolutely. So thank you so much for giving this little insight about you. So jumping back to Matt, so why don't you share a little bit about your professional background with us, and what actually was important towards your development, your career? You've been out there for a long time, serving various companies, now being with Freudenberg. So excited to hear more about you.
Yeah, it's funny. I just looked. I'm 19 years now with Freudenberg, and very often I feel like the young guy in the room. When I look at the leadership team that we have that reports to me, and the majority of them are 20, 25, or more years. And it's the power of Freudenberg, and it's a really, really great place to work. So coming back to me and my path, we've talked about a little bit. I'm an engineer, mechanical engineer by education. I've really worked in sales now for 20, 25 years. I had one company that I worked with before I came to Freudenberg, just out of school. And I've always really been in this sales communication area, and I really, really have a passion for it. And when you talk about my own personal development, when I took my first expat assignment, so it was 2011, expat assignments for anyone who has a family, it's not a career move, it's a life move. And so my wife and I and my two kids at the time, we discussed it a lot. Is this something that we want to do? And ultimately we took the challenge and said, yeah, let's move to Germany. At the time, I had really an amazing boss. I was in an individual contributor role, not in a leadership role. And the boss came and said, look, you're here in Germany. Obviously, you have to do your job, but your number one assignment is learn the language. And the number two assignment is learn the culture. Find a way over the 3 years that you're here to really integrate. And he gave me the time and the space to be able to do that, and to put the energy in to be able to learn a new culture, certainly learn a new language, which for an American is not often something that we do, was really life-changing. And we got to the end of the 3 years and really started to have debates, within the family of, do we want to go home? And ultimately the career, it was the right next step for me to come back to the US. And we were in the US for I think 4 years after that. And it was always weird, because we found ourselves, no matter where we were, not really, I don't want to say not being happy, but always missing the other place. So when we were in Germany, we missed America. When we were in America, we always missed Germany. And when the opportunity came back to move back to Germany, in preparation for the role that I'm in now, again, we talked about it as a family, and we said, let's do it. This was in 2018. It was in preparation for the current role that I'm in, and we talked about it, and we said, let's take the challenge. But definitely it was different the second time around for two big reasons. One, the kids were older and they had a lot more things that they were involved in. And this like expat vacation-y aspect was kind of gone, and it was just kind of real life. But then certainly the other aspect was COVID hit. And so when we were in 2020 and, I think had COVID not hit, we'd still be there. But it was really, we ended up having to make a decision as a family, and we saw that we weren't going to be in Germany forever. And so, having gone through that entire thing, we said family was really important to us. So we came back, and we're very, very close to where the rest of our family is. So it was the right change to come back. But really now we're stuck in this. I always say that we feel like we have two homelands. After 6 years in Germany, we're as comfortable there as we are here in the United States. And, there's always things that are going to frustrate us about both places, but it really changed the course of my career. And then it also changed the course of my family and the way that we interact as an overall family. So to me, that's probably the most developmental thing that's kind of put me where I am today. And then the last part is, as I started to progress within my sales organization that I'm a part of, and taking on that role of leader in the organization, and especially when I came into this role and again started working with Agnes in 2019, leading such a large team, we're a €1 billion+ sales organization, and I'd had a vision because I've been in this team for 15, 20 years, and I had a vision of what I wanted to do, and then to be able to put that into place and to be able to watch the team change and the team develop and really watch the organization start to mold after that vision that I have. And it gives me every single day more and more confidence that we're doing the right things, that we're moving in the right direction. And it's really rewarding. And we talk about the Agnes talked about the appreciation, and it really is, I'm really appreciative of the team that we have and the way that people have accepted this overall vision that we have. So to me, those are kind of the three bullet points of how I got here.
Very interesting. And I love how you also include your family, of course, because it is a family decision going, abroad, and especially when the kids are involved. So looking back at the first steps of learning a new language for you, your wife, the kids, how tough was it? German is for sure not the easiest language, right?
Yeah, it was one of the hardest things that I've ever done. We had an amazing teacher. We had an individual that was contracted with our company, and she took care of, I would say, all of the expats. And as this large global company, we do have quite a few expats coming into the headquarters there in Weinheim. And she spoke no English to us ever, really. And it was, the first day was hello, and then it just started from there. There was no book. There was no, there was only the red thread of, if I talk and you talk, in the end, it will work. And so we did that for, we were there for 3 years. And I think we had classes for 2 years and 9 months. And it was both my wife and I separately doing that. And it was great, really. It got us to the point where we could really feel like we were integrated. And I saw it with so many of the people that I knew. When you don't learn the language, you can't integrate. No, I agree. And those people at the end of their 2 years or 3 years are like, I need to get home as fast as I can. And we were really, in a much different situation.
Absolutely. So let's be honest, Matt, who's the better speaker, you or your wife?
I have to, it's not fair. I was in the office, especially in that first time. I was in the office eight hours a day and hearing German, that entire time. So I certainly, in the business sense, I have a really strong German language. It is funny. We talk about my wife, my daughter, my oldest daughter, who is also fluent in German, and myself, like together, we're like one German.
That's perfect. I love this picture. That's amazing. So you're based in Michigan. Agnes is in Weinheim, a full, of course, a remote partnership here. When was actually the last time you saw Agnes?
Yeah. So as I mentioned, I was in Weinheim for 2 weeks in August. So it was a week of vacation with my wife and I, and then we had a week of board meetings and various things that we had to do. And I try, I would say, every 4 to 6 weeks right now to be in Germany. We have a really, really large team in our Weinheim office there. I also know that as travel increases kind of outside of Europe and that it'll be I think less and less that I'm there and more that I'm in, places around the world.
Absolutely. So Agnes, would you say that the partnership, the remote partnership actually works? And how do you make it work from your side?
It definitely does. I can fully agree on that. I mean, I think having like the background that we both worked next to each other for almost 2 years does really help, because we know exactly like how we interact and how probably also our day is structured, let's say. So Matt is like also one of the persons who, when he wakes up, he flips through his emails, and then he's like, leaving his laptop probably for a while, and then he comes back. So these are things I realized. So that helps him probably to flag the most important things to do. Then he can probably think about it already or not or whatever, but it helps him on that. So I mean, we had the opportunity to work next to each other, and that helps us today. Then we obviously had the COVID situation, right? The first lockdown, although we were located in the same location, we couldn't sit next to each other. So we were already like practicing this remote thing. So using Teams, that was like a challenging time, I must say. I mean, we were really like, Matt was like, let's say 10 hours in a row in calls, right? So it was super tough for me to get hold of him and to kind of reach him. And we were rolling out Teams at that time as well. So Teams was not that common before within the company. So it was like a very challenging, but super important time to have this like base of our work today. And then obviously, like when he told me like he's moving back to the US, I was prepared for that. But then I told him like, Matt, yeah, I mean, for sure, but hold on, I will stay in my working hours, right? I have a daughter. I want to spend my afternoon with my daughter. I start at 7 a.m. in the morning, and this is what I do when you're in the US. I will, for sure, when there are bigger meetings or so, I can always have someone taking care of her, but then I'm flexible, but I want to stay in that working hours. And this is what he agreed on. And then we managed.
Fabulous.
So what we, so thank you for that as well. I mean, really...
was it ever a second where you felt like, is she not flexible anymore? Do I need more flexibility here? Or did you say, no, I fully understand your point here, because I have family too, and I support that?
I mean, I certainly come from that perspective. I have a family, and as much as I travel and as much as I'm away, I certainly value the travel time. And I tell all the, the people, I mean, we work certainly, but you have to take care of your family. And so there was never really a question of saying, okay, can you shift your hours to 2 p.m. to 8 p.m.? That was never really for me an option. If she had volunteered, I probably wouldn't have said no, but I certainly didn't expect that.
What else is important for you for this virtual collaboration, Matt? Is there anything on your non-negotiable list where you say, this is important for us? We have regular check-ins. We try to see each other face-to-face in a certain amount of time. Or is there anything you put on the list where you say that's important?
I think the key item is trust. And we started, working together in 2019 and through 2021. And I think we developed certainly a level of trust between each other and certainly understanding how each other worked. And we were able to carry that into this remote style of working. And for me, when I think about the things that we're doing, certainly a lot of frequent open communication. We talk very openly with each other about what's working, what's not working. I think whether it's virtual or not virtual, that's really important. And then we're really flexible and really open-minded to try all sorts of different things. And being able to communicate with each other, what our expectations are for those. And as an example, I think Agnes understands. I text her not via phone, but in Teams, I text her a lot at night. So it's the end of my day, and I'm basically offloading the items that I have on my desk. And when she gets in the office, it's 2 a.m. my time, and she's able to take all of those things and progress them. And I actually find that in a lot of ways, some of this stuff becomes really efficient because it's the end of my day. And I already know that a lot of these items will be done when I start my day, the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. It does have definitely advantages, the time zones, right? So speaking of tools, Matt, is there any specific tool where you say that's my game changer tool that Agnes and I use all the time? You just mentioned Microsoft Teams that has been established. Anything else you say that's very helpful for us?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's redundant to say email and Microsoft Teams. Teams really becomes the core, I think, of how the two of us work together. If you ask me about the things that I use, I have two things that I try to use very regularly. One is Habit Tracker, which is an app, and I think we'll put it in the show notes for you.
Absolutely.
I would say it's not anything special. It just happens to mirror the way that I think. And I think there's lots of different habit tracker apps that are out there. Another one is Headspace. So trying to do a lot of mindfulness stuff. And I find that really helps set me into a place where I'm able to then manage, these large groups of people and certainly manage the emotions and all the things that are coming. And it really helps me a lot. I have one super analog tool that I use, and I know that wasn't maybe your question, but it's called Year Compass. It's something that I would say has been really a game changer for me over the past 6 or 7 years. And it's a tool that is released every December. It's free on the internet. We'll send you a link to it.
Yes,
and
please.
It's a structured process for setting goals. Certainly, it doesn't have to be done every single year, but I think a lot of people have the rhythm of saying, at the beginning of new year, I'm going to set my goals for the year. And I've been able to do this. And I now go back, I can go back to 2017, 18, and I have all those goals that I've created. And then I track them, and I work through them every day. And whether they're personal goals or professional goals, I really find that it's something that I reference, whether it's daily or certainly weekly, going back and saying, what are the high level things that I want to get done, whether it's personal or professional, and then really pushing and making sure that I don't get stuck in the details of things that are maybe dealing with the urgent and not really the important. And as Agnes knows, those goals get laminated, because when you create something awesome, you laminate it. That's just what you do.
That is so true. But great tools here. I mean, I'm always super interested into new tools. So it's a great resource you're sharing with us. And we're definitely going to put this in the show notes. So thank you so much. So Agnes, what about you? Would you add anything? What is on your tool side? And what helps you to manage Matt?
I mean, I definitely need Microsoft To Do. Without that tool, I couldn't survive anymore, because that is like, it's always called as my second brain, I would say, because I even have it on my mobile device. It is like whenever something comes to my mind, I put it in there. So because then I know, I get an automatic reminder the next day, and I don't get, or I don't forget about it or so. And I really love to tick off boxes, right?
Yes.
I just love
Me too.
So this is why I love that tool actually a lot. Then for sure, Microsoft Teams, it is, and SharePoint, that's the communication tool, right? Without that, I couldn't function. I don't know. I mean, this is like the best tool I see out of the crisis, which we got released, like because of the crisis probably as well. And then what I use a lot as well is OneNote. That's more a tool I use, like having like my conversation list with Matt. It's like a super simple list where I like, bullet point the most important topics, and then I read down things we have to speak about, and that's like a communication based, let's say. But also it's my tool where I store all my files, ideas, links, articles, podcasts, stuff like that I want to go through and I want to work on whenever I have like some spare time and so on. So
very good. I'm a big fan of all of the tools you've mentioned. Just especially Microsoft 2 is also one of my game changer tools. And as you said, ticking the boxes and sharing these to-dos with colleagues, or in my case, I share it with my husband. We have it as a grocery list, shopping and everything.
Nice.
And I always love to see when, he puts the bananas into the basket. So it's done, mission accomplished. And it's nice to track it a little bit. So I would like to jump into another field for you, Agnes. I know that is close to your heart. because you're not only a great right hand to Matt and a wonderful assistant, you also work on the voices of all of the assistant within Freudenberg. So you are the founder of the internal assistant community. So why is this so important for you? Why did you create the group? It's still quite new. And what are you currently working on?
Mm-hmm. So I want to make the assistant's role more visible, right? So this is what I feel like. Sometimes we have that company slogan, often invisible, always essential. And that perfectly fits to our role. We are so essential in the background, but unfortunately, that would probably miss here, often invisible. So what I realized, like when I started as well, there were no real communication between the departments or the admins, let's say. I was like starting to build a network. I was like, picking up the phone and just ask like, hey guys, how do you do this? Where can I find this? Topics of onboarding things and so on. So I really started from the scratch. And then I got introduced to your podcast actually, which helped. I mean, that was like probably the big change during the first lockdown. I was like listening to all the episodes you were recording at that time already, and I thought, oh God, my God, this is exactly what I feel, and this is this is the best thing I really realized. And then I started to share these things within the other admins I got connected to at that time already. And then I got also linked to the LinkedIn group Future Top Assistants, and I was attending the Microsoft Assistant Week, right? And out of all these conversations and articles and sessions, I realized, okay, there is so much more we can do, and obviously we have to start with a network. And then I was like, starting in the Weinheim area first. So I initiated a regular lunch between the assistants. I'm speaking about like our unit, right? In the Freudenberg world, we have that ceiling unit we work for. And then we started a regular lunch, and that was like super successful. It was all even before the crisis. So we were meeting a lot of times. We shared knowledge. We were really feeling like, hey, we have to align. We have to be more open-minded. We have to share things. We even can, negotiate on contracts much better if we consolidate things and needs and so on. And then based on these assistant weeks and so on, speaking to other assistants outside of Freudenberg, where I also like started to grow up my network, I realized, okay, we have to roll out an assistant community. So we have like this local assistant communities since a while already. The Weinheim one, it's like a simple Teams channel. And within that channel, it is really a lot of traffic already. Although we don't have, it is really, I mean, it's like almost on a daily basis, we have so many things. It is really amazing, and so many different topics.
So it's buzzing, right?
It is really. So, and then out of this, I thought, okay, I have to go out. I wanna have this community on an international level. Because I work on international, I work in an international team. So I want to align with other assistants based, let's say in India or in the US as well, right? And then I went to Matt with my idea, because for me, it was important that my manager supports me in that, right? And he also allows me that I can spend time on that.
So what was your answer, Matt? Full of support right away?
Yeah, actually, it really was. We talked about resources and limitations and things like that. But as soon as we had clarified that, I look over at my wall and we have our values, kind of our stated values written on the wall. And I see ownership and open-minded and people-oriented. And here I have someone who's coming to me saying that they're trying to bring value to the company by, being able to share and create this network. And like, there are stated values, either we live them or we don't. And that includes me, right? And so for me, the answer was for sure.
And I'm sure you support knowledge transfer and networking within the assistant community, because at the end of the day, it's a win for everyone, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I remember my friend in Hyatt, who's a former assistant to Google's Eric Schmidt and Jeff Bezos' assistant, good friend of mine who's now actually living in Spain. And I was in Zurich with her 2 weeks ago, where she had the opening keynote, and I gave the closing keynote at an assistant's day. And she always talks about the 3 wins that Eric Schmidt always said whenever you pitch yourself. Like, there needs to be the win for yourself, there needs to be the win for your executive. At the end of the day, it needs to be the win for the organization. And I think you had these 3 wins ready, Agnes, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. And this is like my vision I have. And I mean, then I went out and I was like, asking. We went even public on the portal with an article, and then like within that article we were like raising the question, like, is there someone out who want to build the core team together with me? So, and then based on that, the core team got founded. We are 5 core team members now, globally located. So they're not all in Weinheim, which is great. We have like different aspects to bring into the conversations. Then we already created a name and a slogan of our community. And and then we also assigned the different roles, because I made really clear in front of the core team as well from the very beginning, I don't want to be the leader. We are all in this together, and I don't have the capacity to run this all on my own, right?
Yes.
It can't be, and we have to really like assign roles, and we are all on the same level, let's say. So, and now my assigned role is more or less like on the communication thing. So I went to whomever I speak to in the organization. I always point out what I do.
Very good.
So yeah, and then also like it's a matter of sponsoring thing. Whenever we're having our pitch deck out and fully created, which is almost done, I will go out to specific managers and go there and see if I can probably have some budget as well, even to run like an in-house meeting, training session, things like that, right?
You need these sponsors, and I'm glad that also Matt is supporting you, of course, and giving you resources and empowerment here. And that's really important, that there's the support of the management in the background, and of course HR and all the other stakeholders. So when we look at the role of the management assistant in general, Matt, what is your view here? How is the role transforming, and what are the skills that are essential?
We all watched COVID hit. We saw almost instantly the role of the assistant really change. I was running at that time. I was running about 50% travel, and that went to 0. We had tons of corporate events that were happening. Where Agnes was really taking a lead on a lot of those, and they went, almost for a year and a half, they went to 0. And I think any company at that time is starting to look around, saying, what is the role of an assistant at that point? And I think. When Agnes talked about, she found your podcast, she found this network on LinkedIn, and really searching for what are the things that can make me valuable inside of an organization. It was really important for her to have done that. And then the discussion that happened between her and I think she mentioned early on that she was getting involved in HR topics and things. And it was all, the work between her and I to say, how do we make sure that you have a real workload in front of you that's valuable and bringing value to the company? I think that was important. And
absolutely, yeah.
It highlights to me that, at the end of the day, it's a partnership between 2 people. And when we talk about what is that role, to me, in an ideal world, you have that pair of people sit down and talk about what their strengths and weaknesses are, and what their skills that they have that can make each other stronger. We talked in the beginning about, she's a people person and I'm an engineer, and together we're able to use those skills to the value of the company. And I think the most important thing is for the 2 to be able to be flexible, to figure out how they make that strongest team.
Absolutely. And it's so wonderful to hear this from you, how you really also see the role of the assistant, how it is transforming, how it's specifically in your case, Agnes can support you in other areas. I mean, I was the same when I was working for my executives. I always wanted more. I pushed for more. I was in charge of internal communications. I was writing speeches. I was majorly involved in event management, organized the big IFA fair in Berlin, all these kind of things with huge budgets. But, I never waited for an invitation unless someone felt like, oh, let's ask if Diana wants to jump into this project or run this initiative. So I wanted to have a seat at the table, and I asked for it, and I got into an open dialogue with my executive. And it sounds to me like you have these conversations as well. And especially since Agnes knows exactly also what she wants and how she wants to push the assistant community within Freudenberg. So Agnes, is there anything else you want to add about your community and about your passion project?
Yeah, I mean, it's also interesting to see because we have to define the tool actually we are using to run our community, right? Because for sure, as a first guess, we were all saying like, yeah, for sure it will be launched in Microsoft Teams, and for sure, yes. But then I got introduced to Yammer, which is, I think nowadays, or will be called in the future Viva Engage or so. I don't know. I heard about that new name. So Yammer. So that's a community tool. So I am now part of a test user team. We have the pleasure, we as the assistant community have the pleasure to test the tool together with two other communities, and to really have a testing phase to run, post things, use the system how we want to have. We will align afterwards with IT, speak about pros and cons and things like that. And this is what I really love, because getting into a role of having a new tool launch probably for the organization is something I really enjoy, I must say.
Very good. I'm glad you mentioned the tool, because for sure it is very important to find the right platform to exchange with the other executive assistants and assistants in general. So Yammer, and then I've heard the new name for the first time, so let's see what we're going to find out. Quite interesting. I remember I've been using Yammer for quite some years in a few companies. It's always called like the internal Facebook or something. So it's for sure something that is helpful for your work. Regarding the transformation of the role of the management assistant, Matt, I would like to come back to you when it comes to titles. And I know title is for sure not always the highest priority, although a few people are definitely relying on their titles. But I would like to share a title with you that Google is using for their assistants for quite some years now, which is Executive Business Partner. And you just mentioned about partnership. So would you say that this could be a title that we're going to see more in the future?
So I certainly know this discussion, and I don't know if maybe my answer is what you hope to hear. I would say that on a macro level, it's a really good conversation to have. I think that way too many businesses, and I think way too many executives still look at the role of assistant kind of like it's portrayed in this, TV show Mad Men. But in reality, so much has changed. We talked about the pandemic. We've talked a lot about the other things that are happening. But on an individual level, to me, these conversations, they're so influenced by the unique situations of every company and the individuals that are there. I would say my answer is it depends. But I will say I do have some concrete advice. You even kind of mentioned when you said, no, you didn't ever really in your career wait for the invitation. And I think it's really great advice to people. Like, too often we tell ourselves that if something external to us changes, then we ourselves will change. And maybe here we focus on the title or a job description or something like this. And we say, if I have a different title, then people will see me differently. And the problem is it's not real. At the end of the day, it comes from what is it that I'm doing every single day to make myself invaluable to the company. And I do it, and Agnes does it. And I'm sure, you now as running your own business, you have to do it every day. How do I learn a new skill? How do I grow my responsibility? How do I set myself forward into the next? And the more we all do this as an organization, the easier it is for us to step back and look at, what are we doing in reality? And then make the case to our employers that we should be having a different conversation. It's a promotion, a new title, a pay raise, or whatever it is, really taking the steps to do it as an individual. And then the business title, the job description, the pay, whatever, the promotion, those things will make sense.
Mm-hmm. I fully agree to that. Yes, absolutely. And it starts in many situations by leaving the comfort zone. And I know, especially when we look at the role of the assistants, and I just had it actually today in one of my webinars when there was an assistant who clearly stated like, well, my executive is not working with OneNote. Why should I work with it? And I always keep saying, hey, you are investing in yourself, right? And the challenge is always about you. And understanding a new tool, optimizing a process, getting tech savvy. And this is, of course, the future, the digital competencies. We cannot ignore them. So, and I felt like in this case, the comfort zone, she was not ready to leave it, but we all know how dynamic times are, and we see restructurings and we see new team assignments, and especially assistants, they can work for one executive today and work for another one tomorrow. So I always say, and also for our audience here that is listening to the episode, invest in yourself. I think that's so important to do that. And then, of course, see how you can transform this investment to your executive and to your organization.
Totally agreed.
Yeah. So speaking of remote leadership, and I would love to hear from Agnes in a second how she describes your leadership style, Matt. But what would you say from an executive perspective that remote leadership has changed the way you lead? Would you say it was way harder? Also, a lot of organizations are going hybrid. So give us a little information about the way you lead your teams.
First off, I would say I wouldn't say that it's either harder or easier. I would say that it's the two different styles, being remote and in office. They're really different, both good and both bad. And I think about 2019. I was in office every day, ran a global team, and I can tell you that was hard. I spent 2019 living on an airplane and from hotels. And it was because being face to face with a global team means you're always somewhere else. And I can tell you that the year of 2020 was, on a personal level, it was as difficult as all the things we went through. It was one of the nicest experiences I've ever had in 15 years. I can't tell you, a time when I didn't go a month without traveling, much less a whole year without leaving my house, or at least without getting on an airplane. So that great experiment that we've been through over these last few years, there's a pendulum that swings. And I think right now it's swinging really heavy, and it's going in one direction. And I think we'll also come back. For remote leadership, I think when relationships are pre-established, I think remote leadership works really, really well. And I think we have that within our team, the leadership team, as I talked about, 19 years in the company, and I'm the young guy. That relationships, really, we are able to leverage that to maintain our culture. I think what doesn't really work well, or at least yet work well, is figuring out how to transition long-term culture creation and transmission of culture within teams. So when we bring someone new on, how do we transition to say, if we're in a remote setting, that they understand what the culture is and what it means to be part of our team? And I think that's really, really tough.
Yes. Excuse me. Yeah, you go ahead.
And maybe, we are a little bit skewed. We've talked a lot about sales. We're in a sales office, and we are by nature really relational people. We need to touch and feel, and it's not because we want managers to be able to control, but we want our colleagues to learn from each other and to be in the same place. And it is clear for us that sales, just by nature, is remote, right? Is that we have to be in front of the customer, but the same thing is about our leadership, is that we have to be in front of our people and talking to and understanding, what they need and how they need. And so much of that is just lost, in a virtual screen.
Yes, indeed. And once again, here's the connection to the role of the assistant, supporting the team, having a feel for the atmosphere. What do we need as a team? How do we need to work on our values, on our commitments? And I think this is one of the core skills here when we come back to the discussion of being a people manager, to having a feeling, okay, I'm not having the water cooler discussion here because there is no water cooler discussion because we're all remote, but still so connected. And you said that earlier, Matt, that one of the core skills of Agnes is for sure the networking and the building bridges. So I always say also part of this new leadership style is for sure the power of the assistant in the background. Agnes, what would you say about the leadership style of Matt? Would you say it changed from having him in the room and then now being remote, or what would you say in general about the way he leads the team?
Well, I think in general, what I said earlier already, like Matt fully trusts in the team and in the work we are doing. Mm-hmm. And that's a super important point. We all know that. And he also appreciates a lot what we are doing. So this is like, I think the most important that we really all know that, right? Mm-hmm. Then for sure, I mean, he's running town hall meetings, so everyone, even the new people on the team, can see him, like at least virtually, right? Keeping the team updated on latest data, but also on the strategics and like on the newest vision and values and things like that. So everything he and the leadership team works on, right? So this is important for him that he's pretty transparent. Mm-hmm. What he also does is he's doing skip level meetings quite often with the team. So he is like meeting different team members, inviting them to either like in-person meetings when they're in the same location, obviously, but also via Teams. And within these meetings, he's like a good listener, right? He's like trying to understand like the challenges we all face every day on our daily work. And but he's also like, connecting to the people a bit on a private life, right? To really keep like the relationship we had already alive, right? Mm-hmm. So this is like super important, and I know that these type of meetings are really appreciated by the team as well. So, and he's always available whenever you have something, you need an advice or you really have difficulties or so on. Everyone knows that they can really reach out to Matt. They don't hesitate.
That's wonderful. So, yeah. So I hear a lot of kudos here coming out of this, the things you just said about Matt, which is wonderful. So why don't we end the conversation of giving a few more kudos to Agnes, Matt? Is there anything you my English is gone. Specifically want to address to her, especially when you look back at the collaboration you are in, and also the way she's supporting you?
Yeah, for sure. I think we've covered, a couple of the big key items. We talked about trust and ownership. And I think that it's one of the things that I see very much with Agnes is that she really, has that trusting relationship together with me. And I'm fully confident that she takes ownership for the things that she's doing. And for me, that's really, really important. And I really appreciate it. I appreciate really her desire to grow in whatever way she can. I mean, we've talked about, different examples of things that assistants might grow into. And she was really clear. I love my job. I love what I'm doing, but it also doesn't mean that she wants to be stagnant. And I'm always pushing the people around me, and I push myself to grow. And in whatever way that means, I really appreciate that, she is looking for ways to be better for herself, not necessarily just better for me or for the team, but just to be better. I really appreciate the deep passion that she has for helping others. I see it, and I really, really saw it over the last 3 years, both as my assistant who was working with me as an expat, but I saw her stepping in to fill gaps where the organization was not maybe doing what we thought was the right amount of support for some of the other expats that were within our organization. And she was really saying, someone's got to do it, and I'm going to do it because, at the end, it's just caring for people.
Yes.
Of course, the networking superpower, right? I don't have it, and she does, and I really appreciate that. And maybe the last one is the friendship. She mentioned it in the beginning, and I would echo what she said. Because I've always said, and my wife and I have talked about this, the partnership that you develop with an assistant over time is to a certain extent kind of intimate in the way that, I've always joked, if my identity is ever stolen, Agnes is the first person that I'm going to call. She has everything. She knows every single thing about me. But over time it develops, or can develop into a friendship. And I think with Agnes and I, that's definitely true.
That is such great kudos what we're hearing here. And I definitely can echo what you just said, Matt. And in many cases, I always, or I got the call from my executive, and the first call always came to me, and then the wife got the call. When something happened, it was always the assistant's number first, and then the call to the wife. So it's always wonderful to see when these partnerships are running, and I definitely hear this here from the conversation we had. So much appreciation for both of you for giving out a little insight about the way you collaborate, about the way you look at change, about the way you have been transforming through the COVID time. And it was a wonderful opportunity for me to talk to you both and to get a little bit more information about your working style. We're going to cover, of course, everything you've been sharing, especially Matt. Thanks for all the tools you gave away. A few new tools for me as well. I'm definitely going to check out the habit tracker, and we're going to put all of this into the show notes. So everybody who's listening to us, make sure you check out the show notes. We're going to share a little bit of information there. You also have the opportunity to connect with Agnes and Matt over LinkedIn. So you're going to find their links in there. And I can only say, assistants, get in touch with Agnes. She's full of passion. She is going to bring the assistant community within Freudenberg for sure to the next level. And of course, she is ready to share her knowledge. And this is what I really adore about you, Agnes, that you share knowledge, that you open up your network and help others to grow. And so kudos also from my side to you.
Thank you.
Very welcome. So thank you so much for being here on the Future Assistant podcast. Very excited to release this episode. All the best to you, and be safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Diana.
I would like to remind you to check out the show notes, because there are 2 links waiting for you that Matthew has been mentioning, the habit list and the year compass. And you're going to find also the LinkedIn links to the profiles to Matthew and Agnes. So make sure you reach out to them, especially Agnes, of course. Wonderful to have her out there as a strong voice for supporting assistants, for setting up internal assistant networks. And I can only say thank you so much to both of you for being on the show today. Wishing you all the best for all the projects you're going to run in the year 2023. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate that you decided to spend your valuable time with me. How did you like the episode? Please make sure you leave a note or a comment and a review, and I would love to get your feedback. The next episode is in the making already, and I cannot wait to welcome you again at the Future Assistant podcast. See you soon.